Searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless. A sea of the aimless. I don't wanna be one of the nameless. I'ma wake up with the mindset that one day I'm gonna make it. And I don't think I'll be fine if I don't break my limitations. Don't try to stop me, I exist to write my own story. I'll make a decision if I want some peace or if I want the glory. Yeah, don't want a life that is complacent or possibly boring. I just want a life that is worth every day exploring.
My whole life I just wanted someone who would notice me. My whole life I just wanted to be somebody to be. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, 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 I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, 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 yeah.
3 races to go in the Sim500 NC811 Grand National Series, and well, as we get into the cooler weather parts of the year, as we get into fall, not quite there yet, but we're getting there, there's one place to be when the weather gets cool, and that is South Florida. Tonight, that's where we are. 3 races to go. Round 26 about to kick off here at Homestead-Miami Speedway, virtually on iRacing. I'm the captain. We welcome you in on this Sunday evening as we get ready to set the tone and see who will separate themselves from the others and be the potential champion of this 2023 campaign. Still got, as mentioned, 3 races to go tonight here at Homestead. Next week, we go up I-95 about roughly 5 hours to Daytona before we head west to Las Vegas to finish out the season in just a couple of weeks. Where do we sit points-wise? It's a great question. Here's where we sit right now. It's Pedro Mojica picking up win number 12 last week. He is only 6 points above Stefan Marinick, who finished second last week. Chad Coleman, Kevin DeBrown, Doy Woods, Anthony Calantoni, Tyler Dalton, Tommy Ryan. Your top 8 drivers that are running for the championship 8 right now in this series. Of course, we had 4 races in the first round. I had 16 drivers. After the 4, we went to 8, and now we do 4 more races with 1 already completed to finish out the season. So let's look at what we have going on. So Tommy Ryan, 48 points back right now. He has pretty much eliminated himself out of this championship. Unfortunately, missed last week's race, and he is not here tonight from what I can tell. So unfortunately, you could almost call this now a 7-person race. Tyler Dalton had a terrible race last week at... I have to go back in my head and remember where it was, but give me a second, I'll get that one right. But Tyler had a bad race last week, and basically, unfortunately, fell 25 points back, lost 5 positions. He is going to need some help, and unfortunately, with a little bit of a lighter field here this evening, he's going to need a lot more help, because that's obviously going to be to a situation where points are going to be a desperate one, if you will. And it was Indianapolis, by the way, last week for that race. So Dalton, obviously, kind of in a bad spot right now. He's going to need a lot of help to have a chance to compete, but anything can happen, and that's why we race. You see Calantoni only 17 back. He's another one that's going to need a little bit of help here this evening. Doy Woods, a little bit of help. Those top 3, you could almost add Kevin DeBrown right now. They're in 4th, looking solid, but they're going to need some help. And I say that because Pedro has been pretty dominant throughout the season. As you see, 12 wins, 19 top 10s. He's been the guy that's been winning all the races. And basically, for these guys to be able to jump the head man, if you will, at the table right now, they're going to need some help to make it happen. So that's where we are right now in the point standings here after 25 races. Indianapolis last week, which was won by Pedro Mojica, and now we go to Homestead for the race here this evening. Our pole award presented by 811. Of course, you know what's below by calling 811 to find out. Don't just go randomly digging somewhere. Know it's below. Call 811 before you dig. Qualifying starting up right now. This car is going to head out on the track. 5 minutes of qualifying as per usual. All the cars go at one time, so we just try to find drivers who are going out on track and pick them up and see what kind of laps they can run. Let's start with a driver that you can almost argue is one of the most improved drivers this season. And that is that guy right there, Glenn Campbell. That 44 car, he has qualified well, he has raced well. The only thing that he needs to be able to do here in the near future is put the finishes together. If he can do that, then there's no reason why Glenn Campbell can't be somebody we see consistently going to victory lane, if not being a consistent top 5, top 10 finisher every week here at Sim500. 18 degrees of banking at the bottom, 19 in the middle, 20 at the top, and a very loose and very slick track, because this is a track that was remodeled back in 2003 to its current configuration and hasn't been touched since, as it's an old, worn-out surface. Campbell lays it down first lap, 33.84, and we'll start to see the laps roll in here. As Hudson, Tyler Dalton, 34.06. Let's check Chad Coleman here in the NOS number 38. Of course, the green at the bottom means they're faster that lap. Purple means they're on a pole lap. As Mojica, 33.75. Oof, we set the tone on that first lap. Donaldson jumps to second, 33.79. Campbell in 88. Let's, well, Tyler Dalton just completed his lap at a 33.86. Gillenwater in 87. So back to Chad as he comes off turn 4 here. Chad jumps up to third, 33.81. So good lap on his part. Let's check out our guy who's second in points as he comes out of pit road here. Seth Foudy at 33.81 also. Some might say the local favorite, maybe with the whole Miami Dolphins paint scheme. Of course, they're playing on Sunday Night Football here tonight, and here he is with the paint scheme down in Miami. Unfortunately, the stadium's about 45 minutes north of here, but Kevin DeBrown, 33.76, jumps P2. Keeps the car up here at the top side. That either tells me he's going to throw away this lap or he's feeling comfortable about being at that top side, coming to his qualifying lap. Let's see here, lap 1 on the board. Marinick goes 15th, 34.11. You see him now going down right to this seam. This is about the fastest way around this track. You can go pretty much anywhere, but if you put that left side right on that seam where the 18 degrees becomes 19 degrees, that is the ideal way to get around this Homestead-Miami Speedway. And you see him right down on that line again. You can almost put that left front below the line later in the run as it gets tight to try to de-wedge the car a little bit. Across the start-finish line, Marinick jumps to P2, 33.76 is actually what I got, 75, but rounded up, looks like to the 100th of a second. Pedro Mojica hasn't beat, according to my telemetry over here on the left. So Pedro Mojica going to win the pole, it looks like, for the Sim500 NC811 Grand National Series, as we got about 25 seconds left here in qualifying before it wraps up. And it gives us an opportunity. They'll get about 1 minute of practice here. And we'll get the green flag and get rolling here. And let's see how Pedro is feeling right now. I would think he's going to be feeling pretty good here in this race this evening, as he's going to start on the pole once again, presented by 811. Pedro, congratulations once again on another pole here tonight. Obviously, this track, I would think, suits your driving style pretty well. Worn out surfaces. You seem to know how to get around this track. I think of Auto Club and tracks like that. So talk about how big it is to get that pole tonight, and how you feeling about this setup.
I mean, yeah, it's good to have the pole. Track positions, usually, you know, it's important. It's always good to have. Tonight, I mean, I like how the setup is. Pretty challenging for sure.
Everybody for coming out.
Drive off the corner is going to be important to manage during this race. Seems like we killed the left rear pretty good, so we'll have to manage the looseness during the race.
So that actually led to my next question: was the car building loose or tight? So is there any kind of tricks? Obviously, you got a progressive banking track here. I know, when you have a car that's tight here, you can almost put the left front down on that bottom groove and try to de-wedge the car a little bit. So is there any kind of little things you can do to help the car tighten up a little bit
I mean,
outside of fuel?
yeah, there's a couple things you could do just with corner entry, I guess, is the biggest thing. Because in corner exit, you just got to manage, this tire spinning, make sure you're not busting the rear end off the corner and whatnot, so that it kind of helps build more tighter.
Sounds about right. Well, sounds like it's good practice for tomorrow night that I hear is going to be interesting in Darlington. So, hey, best of luck, and maybe we'll see you in Victory Lane here in a little bit.
All right, yeah, hopefully.
All right, buddy.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. Pedro Mojica, the pole sitter here tonight at Homestead. I kind of teased that note there because I've already talked to a couple people about tomorrow night's Cup race at Darlington for the first round of their playoffs, and have been told that they are sliding everywhere there. And I'm like, yeah, my kind of Darlington. All right, let's take a look at the starting lineup here for the 26th race of the 2023 NC811 Grand National Series. Pedro Mojica, Stefan Marinick, the top two in points, the top two on the grid. As Marinick starts there, P2. Kevin DeBrown, Wesley Donaldson in row number 2. Bob Gillenwater, another good qualifying run there for him. Chad Coleman in the outside of row number 3. Seth Foudy and Glenn Campbell. See if Glenn can put another good race here together in row number 4. Joe Hudson, Tyler Dalton in row 5. Tyler going to need some help to get back in the running for the championship here this season. Joy Wood, Steve Ritter there in row number 6. Row 7, Bobby Wetzel, Anthony Calantoni. I think he's pretty happy about the way his Giants played today, well, at least the second half. Row number 8, Jeff Ryan, Ron Holyfield, Eric Arnold, Doug Sigmund, Brian Wortman, and Gerald Livingston in the 10th row. So, unfortunately, a little bit of a smaller field, but we're going to get ready to go racing here on this 1.5-mile traditional oval. 136-degree track temp. That's going to be one to talk about. 79 degrees, the usual iRacing default weather on this 1.5-mile track, as mentioned. Originally built as a rectangle back in the mid-90s after Hurricane Andrew swiped through here. Was transitioned to a flat 1.5-mile oval. And then they put banking on it in 2003, and that's where we sit today at Homestead-Miami Speedway. It is round number 26 in the second race of the Championship 8 Green from Miami. And our cameras tonight presented by TrackCams22.com. You can check them out online on Facebook and the iRacing forums at TrackCams22.com as you see them spread out already. Mojica with the lead down the back straightaway to battle for second. Kevin's actually going to go ahead and get ahead of Marinick. Through 3 and 4. See some 3 wide already back here. Eric Arnold. We'll say Jeff Ryan's in a NFC sandwich, but he has worked his way out of that. I do want to correct myself. I had 130 laps on the timing and scoring. It's actually 120 this evening. So 180-mile race. And a real good chance this could go caution-free because this series has a history of that kind of thing. Top 3 playoff drivers all right there. Marinick, Kevin DeBrown, Steph, and Pedro Mojica. And then Bob Gillenwater up to the 4th spot right there in the 4 car. Ride with Wesley Donaldson, the 91, the WBD diecast car. We jump up front here. Kevin DeBrown looking to get the lead from his teammate early in a traditional Pedro Mojica move. Usually lets the cars kind of go by him to start with. and then slowly goes by everybody to get the lead back. Very tough to pass, though, especially as tires start to wear out. You almost got to hope that the other cars kind of burn up their stuff, but you're looking at a guy like Pedro, who is arguably the best driver in this series, and you're expecting him to burn up his tires, which happens not often, as Doy Woods climbs up the board there. Battles with Steve Ritter for the 11th position. A lot of off-throttle time. Very sweeping corners. Just not sure if the top groove's ready yet. I mean, it was being used in practice, obviously, but everybody on the same tires now. Got to let the wear kind of kick in here. Will be interesting to see what the tire wear, what our pit strategy looks like tonight. You can go 50, maybe even make that lap 60 mark. Going to be tough, but you could do it. And if that's the case, then you got a one-stop race. Otherwise, you splitting this race in 3 and going with the tires. Do you go 2 stops? I'm kind of interested to see how that goes here as we get into the race. As Eric Arnold looks inside of Steve Ritter for position. And he'll take the 12th spot away from the 16 car. Eric up 5 spots already from the start of this race. Otherwise, everybody's pretty much maintained where they've started. Seth Foudy looking there on the top side, trying to just get a little bit of momentum in that 36 car. When everybody follows each other into the corner, obviously you get all the dirty air and stuff, so try to get that car out into the clean air a little bit. You might be able to get a little bit of a run and make something happen. And as per usual, we do have our onboard camera with Seth Foudy in the number 36. Thanks to Seth for always sending me the links to get them all hooked up. Looks like he's got the Chase Elliott hat rocking up there. Here he had to roll out of the throttle a little bit there, slid up the track, kind of killed his momentum. And that's what I thought would happen. Somebody would probably get a run on him, and it is Chad Coleman for the 6th position. As Chad makes the pass. So I mentioned that Pedro is usually pretty solid on the long runs, lets the car kind of come to him. Well, as you look right now, Pedro's starting to pull out to a 0.4 of a second lead over Kevin DeBrown. Stefan Marinick right there with him and Bob Gillenwater. As Marinick pokes out and inside of Kevin DeBrown. Drives in there pretty deep. I think Kevin might have let him have the spot to get back to the line. And it looks like that bottom actually is the way to go right now, which is kind of surprising. One thing I have noticed, Doy Woods has lost a position or two since he's migrated up to that top side, which either tells me, one, he is burning up the tires a little bit more running up there, or two, he's just been passed by faster cars in the race right now. .138-degree track temperature, top 13 cars are within 3 seconds. It shows you how tight this series is when it comes to racing. They are always right around each other time-wise. Check on Glenn Campbell inside of the 36. Found he's starting to fall back a little bit. Holding his own up there on Campbell. Of course, this track was the home of the Cup Series Championship race up until 3 years ago when they moved the race out to Phoenix. A lot of people kind of, oh, Campbell getting loose, and then he gets helped a little bit by Dalton, I think. Spins it around, but he's down on the apron and is going to tow back to pit road, so no caution. As I said earlier, he's gotten, you could argue, easily the most improved driver of this series, but yet, unfortunately, just has those little issues that keeps him from getting to the finish. Let's see what happened to the 44. Yeah, Tyler ended up helping him out after he got loose, but he got the inside wall hard. One thing that does play a role in this sim, tracks like here in Iowa, is the transition of banking. You get that right rear up there on that 20 degrees of banking, you're de-wedging the car, and it just helps it go on around. And that's, I think, what exactly happened to Glenn as he pops it inside wall. But yeah, no caution because he kept it off the track. Marinick is knocked off a little bit of time here. Got it down to 0.3 of a second, does he? Or he does. Because these guys are pretty much Harvicking turn both corners. Scott Simley, everybody. So Kevin DeBrown has hurt his tires, I think, a little bit there. That 93 has lost, what, 5 positions now since he made that attempt to get around the 58. But you have a track here very wide. Yet everybody has pretty much parked their car right down on that white line and is using it to rotate the car around. Everybody but Doy Woods, who's still up there exploring that top lane, as Seth Foudy now jumps up there to see if he can get something rolling. 22 laps complete already. All green flag. Let's step away for a quick second. Hear from our sponsor 811 as you're watching the Grand National Series Sim500 from Homestead-Miami Speedway on the Captain Esports Network.
If recent storms have caused damage to your property, contact 811 before you begin your cleanup. Buried utilities around uprooted trees can make a bad situation worse if those lines are not located before digging. Electric, natural gas, and internet lines are everywhere, and knowing where they are is the safest way to start any digging project. Call North Carolina 811 by dialing 811 or by using single address ticket on NC811.org or the NC811 app.
As we come back to this battle right here, to the 7th position, Joe Hudson, Eric Arnold, Kevin Brown, and Tyler Dalton battle down here in lap number 23. Big shout out to 811 for all the hard work they do. I've been watching that commercial every week now for a year, or for about a year. And I have to say, that's the first time I've realized that the safety guy's name is Safety Sam. It was on his shirt. I never paid attention to his shirt, apparently. That Bennett Auto Supply Camaro of Joe Hudson trying to hold off Arnold there. Roy Wood still up there trying to work that top groove in. See if he can get something to go for him up there. So the $1 million question here is Hudson gets loose, can open the door for Arnold. Let's talk about that for a second, actually, before I bring up what I was going to say here. As Arnold works the bottom here, Hudson gives it to him, goes right back to the bottom. I mean, this is literally looking like a race at Martinsville or something, the way they're just pancaking, or not pancaking, but painting that yellow or white line at the bottom. I say that as Dalton goes to the top and tries to get around. And he's going to make the pass. So, thought process here. Marinick's been holding on to about a 4/10 of a second lead. So, let's be real for a second. Is this Marinick maintaining a 3/10, 4/10 of a second margin? Or is this Mojica backing up his times to Marinick to save his tires? Something tells me B is the answer to that. And that's not to disrespect Marinick at all. Great driver there, but that's just, Pedro is fast on the older tires on almost any track. And he gets out here in the lead like this. He has the ability and talent to maintain a gap on somebody. You always hear them talking about in racing, maintaining a gap. If you're the leader, and that's, I think, what Pedro is doing more than anything right now. Hudson holding on to that right rear. That thing was sliding all through 3 and 4. So these cars really starting to getting to a point where they're almost undrivable with the left rear. You got to go find yourself a comfortable groove to run the car. He ran the bottom that time around. It looked like he gets a little free off the corner. Arnold putting pressure on in that Mustang. And Tyler's going to send it in there on Eric a little bit. Two people going for the same piece of real estate there. Tyler did a good job getting out of it. Arnold's going to clear. Here comes Dalton. Times have fallen off about 1.7 to almost 2 seconds range-wise. And this is why I brought up, when do you come to pit road? Do you come in lap 40? Do you come in lap 50? You go at 40, you're almost guaranteeing a two-stop to the finish. 50 is a two-stop race. If you can get to 60 some miracle way, then you can make this on a one-stopper. So Dalton does clear the 36-4 position. Meanwhile, up front, Marinik has knocked it down to 0.2 of a second. What I'm trying to figure out here is, with the way iRacing is set up, is this a simple shortest way around type of track that they're doing on the bottom side here, and that's how they're able to run the speeds they're running at the basically their fast laps or whatever, and not being able to go up to the top? I mean, because if so, that makes it very interesting that these cars are parked right down on that white line. Because with the progressive banking, you'd almost think you could carry more speed and make up for the shortest way around groove thing, if you will. I know iRacing's been working on their dynamic track. I know they released it a couple years ago and then had some work to do on it, and I know they're supposed to be at least working on, if not releasing one in the near future. That and rain. Oh, Joe, easy. Got loose there off 2 again. Almost got into the back of Kevin DeBrown. There's actually a bump back there at 2 that plays some havoc. Actually, I'm seeing some damage on the right rear of Kevin's car there, so I wonder if he's been in the outside wall or something. Yeah, that right side's pancaked a little bit. Correct, Mark. Yeah, I'm aware of the high groove using tire. Is it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it using more tire the more up track you go, Joe? Or is it just when you get to the high groove? Because I'm thinking even if you were to the middle, like if you got where it's 19 degrees there, that even you would be a little bit faster than running the bottom. I mean, literally, as a terminology I once heard, Bob Rossing the bottom. As Arnold, 4.5 seconds, almost 5 seconds back, trying to hold off Dalton, as these two been fighting for a little bit. Tyler getting a little free on entry there, and there's the tight that comes with it. Then you got to roll the throttle and try not to get loose off, especially crossing over those seams. You want to have your wheel as straight as possible coming off the corners. How oxymoron that sounds, and it's because the seams, the transition of the banking can spin your car out. So you watch how Tyler's hands are almost turning right. He's trying to keep the wheel as straight as he can over the seam, and then just fight the thing. Swat flies. You see loose on entry, obviously tight center, and then loose off. That is a deadly combination. see everybody's pretty much in the 36-second bracket, a couple 37s, and up front a couple 35s. The tires have definitely run its course here. Yeah, Scott sends me emojis for some reason. What? All right, so this is where I tell Scott, I don't know like how old you are, but I know we're older, so to say, than the new generation of people. I don't really do well with emojis. Like I know the green-faced one means you're puking. I know like the one smacking its head means like dummy. I'm not sure what that is. Is that college or school or? I'm baffled here. It looks like that's a young girl. Oh, we got pit stops here at lap 40. That just answered my question too. Stop her. I can't tell if that young lady there in the photo, if she's like wearing a cap and gown, and then the heck if I know what's on the right there. Anyways. All right, pit stops. So Donaldson, Coleman, Dalton, Ryan, and Calantoni all on pit road here. If you're going to do this strategy, you have to commit to it. And you have to do it really quickly. You cannot kind of put yourself in where you're pitting 5 laps from now. Correct. As all these guys, 4 tires and fuel, 14.5, 14.7, 15.7 for Wesley. That's not a good stop. Eric Arnold, Gerald Livingston, Ron Holyfield all on pit road here. Yeah, caution free here so far. But we shouldn't be surprised. So you wonder if this forces the hand of Mojica and Marinick, or do they stay out here and go for another few laps? Calantoni's still on pit road there. He's been there for almost 2 minutes. I wonder if they're... Oh, no, he'd be out of the pits if it was a speeding penalty. Oh, Calantoni with issues. And here comes Marinick to pit road. So second place. And for those wanting to see the tire difference, look at 10th place and then look at the leader. Almost a 2-second separation. Matter of fact, Chad Coleman just ran a 33.89 a second ago. $14.7 as he rolls away. So this is, now it turns into a driving style almost, if you will. Do you want to have tires in the long run? Or do you want to gain all the track position with the undercut right now, but then risk being one of the slower cars later in the race when the fresh tires come blowing past you? Or try to catch you. It's kind of a catch-22, if you will, right here. So Mojica stays out. Bob Gilwater now second. Bobby Wetzel is now third. Seth Foudy fourth. There goes fresh tires going by. These guys all unlapping themselves. See, if you're Pedro, I think you're at a point now where you're going to go probably either another 4 laps or you're trying to go to 60. I don't know if you really can risk putting yourself on an island right now, because that's where he's... If anybody pits like now, you're almost on an island. I don't know if it makes too much of a difference, but I would think pitting between 47 and or 40 and 50 will make a difference. Especially 40 and 60, because if you can get to lap 60, which There's only one guy I know of that could probably make it to lap 60, and that's the guy in chat right now. Doug Sigmund on pit road, the 04. That would be you, sir. I mean, help me out if you remember, Scott. I know it's obviously so many races you guys do, but this is one of those tracks. You could probably get to 60 with the way the speed slow down, correct? Or is it very close? Anthony Calantoni back on track after spending roughly 2.5 minutes on pit road. So Brian Wortman on pit road. So the first car with fresh tires is Wesley Donaldson here in the 7th position. And you see Chad Coleman there behind him, Tyler Dalton. That's what I was wondering. I'm thinking the same thing, Scott. This was one of those tracks from, you go back, God, what, 5-6 years ago? When they come out with this tire model that wore out a lot. Because remember when you and I were racing together, I mean, the tire wore out, but it wasn't really like a wear type thing. And then all of a sudden when NIS started up and we would go to tracks like here, you would see those guys try to run the car all the way out of fuel. And then you get the people like me that would pit at lap 30, pretty much cut the run in half, but have the fresh tires for another 30 laps and be able to almost catch back up and then blow away the leaders and almost have an advantage by undercutting. And that's what these guys are doing here, pitting at lap 40. So we're at lap 51 now. So this tells me that Pedro's going to go as far as he can here. And obviously the question, can he get to the lap 60 mark? As back here, Stefan Baranek inside of Tyler Dalton for 9th. And 1 through 6 have not been to pit road. That's Mojica, Gillenwater, Wetzel, Foudy, DeBrown, and Woods. And it's about 5 seconds from Doy Woods back to where Wesley Donaldson is with the fresh tires. You see it up there on the map. Doy Woods over here in turn 1 right now. Wesley Donaldson back here now entering turn 1. I also think one other factor let's add into this is the plateauing of tires. And what I mean by that is you get some of these tracks, you get out there and you're running laps like this. You get 50, 55 laps or whatever. And after about lap 35 to 40, your tires all of a sudden don't fall off anymore. They're running the same lap times almost every lap. And when that happens, you get these guys on fresher tires, their tires start to wear and wear and wear and wear. And then eventually you guys even out. And I look over right now, you got Mojica running a 36.25. Wesley Donaldson 34.73, so it's a second and a half now. So I'm curious to see here in the next couple laps, does that get closer and closer together? Or does it stay about that far apart? Well, I guess it makes sense that you could have kind of seen this out of Pedro because the way he was backing up to the 1. I knew it was either a part of his strategy to one-stop this thing or to try to go on a one-stopper. As those guys go past Doy Woods, so they've now caught the back of the pack that have not come to pit road yet. Is the risk of this worth the reward when it comes to, you're going to say hypothetically here, Pedro's going to lap 60. These guys are going to go to lap 80. So 20 laps, which is exactly what the other guys just ran. Basically, Pedro's going to have that advantage for 20 laps before these other guys come to pit road and have 20 laps of an advantage too. Is it worth that risk of losing the time you've lost now in those 20 laps to the 20 that come in 80? I know I'm probably overthinking this, but I'm trying to break it down in my head where Pedro's coming from here. And not that I'm ever going to question something he's doing. But obviously with him one-stopping this, he's got to watch his fuel now, where these others can go guns out as best as possible to get the positioning they can. I mean, right now Wesley Donaldson's 15 seconds back. Delta time on pit road is roughly 40, we'll call it 44 seconds. If a caution comes out in the next couple laps, Pedro's in the money seat because he's got an extra set of tires. Absolutely, 100%. I'm just doing the math here. They have a tool I can use on here to figure it out, but I've always had a hard time getting it right on the map. Here, let me try it out real quickly here while we're doing this. Because this app I use, SDK, you can actually use for driving too. And I can actually set it up to where it tells me where somebody should come out of the pits at. So let's go up here. Turn this on. You're going to see a P button pop up over on the map. As here comes Gillenwater to pit road now at lap 60. So here's the halfway point. So these cars here are obviously doing the one-stop strategy to the finish. And down here, time lost in pits is about 45. We'll make it 44. So there we go. So as of Pedro coming to pit road, which I'm thinking is going to be any minute now. He's just banking time now. So Pedro should come out somewhere in front of Bobby Wetzel. So he's going to be roughly 3/4 of a lap down, if not being lapped here when he comes out of pit road. So let's see how accurate this is. So Bobby Wetzel's still out there on those same tires. He leads this race. Marinick just took the lead from him on the track. All these fun little tools I like to try during these races. Four tires and fuel, pulls away. And remember, you got to stay on this access road all the way through turn 1 and 2. As Wetzel comes to pit road, Marinick's crossing the start-finish line right now. So there you go. So roughly about 2/3 of a lap down. Pedro's got to make up, but now he has got the fresh tires on this car. So we'll see how it works. That's pretty accurate, I guess. So Seth Foudy, Bobby Wetzel on pit road now. And this is your only guy who has not pitted. Kevin DeBrown. And he is going to come in now. So there you go. Everybody making it to pit road. And now you have all the 160 strategies here going on in this race. And just a note for those who pitted here, I mean, they obviously had to save fuel and save tires from the start. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. You were saving from the start of the race, knowing that you got these guys that pitted 20 laps before you going as hard as they can pretty much. So Stefan Marinick, the Miami Dolphins car, leads. Wesley Donaldson, Chad Coleman, Tyler Dalton, Eric Arnold, Steve Ritter, Joe Hudson, Gerald Livingston. Those 8 cars all pitted between lap 39 and 43. And then your first car on tires is Pedro Mojica in the 9th position. There's Pedro coming out of turn 2 right now. Everybody's pretty spread out now around this 1.5 mile track. This is probably your closest battle right here. As Coleman there in the 3rd position trying to hold off Tyler Dalton. So tomorrow night, Darlington Raceway, the first race of the Cup Series playoffs. 20 drivers with a chance to take home the Cup Series trophy for Sim500. We kick it off at 8:15 tomorrow night, Eastern Time-ish. I'm actually on sort of a vacation this week. I'm actually moving in the middle part of the week, but obviously got the early part off, so I will be here. No rush, no anything like that. Ready to go. And I've already been told by the drivers as they prepare that that track is all types of slick in the next-gen car. So it's going to race like Darlington, as I'm told. So, going to be a lot of fun to watch these guys tomorrow night. I might have Kevin England counting Darlington stripes for me or something. Might be a project for him. All right, so check it here on Pedro, 9th position. Pedro is about 1.3 to 1.4 seconds faster than Marinick each lap. And you got about 12, I would say, laps or so before you see Marinick on pit road. And like I said earlier, you're either on that side of the ship or you're on this side of the ship, basically, with the way this is all set up now, because if you're in the guys that pitted at lap 60 and you feel like you cannot catch these guys with the tires that are going to two-stop this race, there's no aborting and jumping to a two-stop strategy because you're too far back at that point. And obviously for the one-stoppers, they pitted at lap 40. You cannot go 80 laps on a tank of fuel here. So they've got no choice but to do a second pit stop in this race. As Mojica goes around Joe Hudson for 8th, or make that 7th. All right, so before we get to the next set of pit stops, let's step away for a second. Let's hear from our sponsor, 811, as you're watching the Grand National Series Sim500 action from the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway on the Captain Esports Network.
If recent storms have caused damage to your property, contact 811 before you begin your cleanup. Buried utilities around uprooted trees can make a bad situation worse if those lines are not located before digging. Electric, natural gas, and internet lines are everywhere, and knowing where they are is the safest way to start any digging project. Call North Carolina 811 by dialing 811 or by using single address ticket on NC811.org or the NC811 app.
All right, back we are here at Homestead-Miami Speedway, virtual and iRacing, is round number 2 of the Championship 8 here from South Florida. One of 2 mile-and-a-half tracks on the final 4 race schedule. Of course, Las Vegas being the finale, but this one you can argue is separate from those mile-and-a-half tracks. It is a traditional one, but also it is a worn-out surface and a track with very windy corners. I say windy. I'd say more of, I've lost the term in my head, but like dynamic, if you will, with the multiple degrees of banking. You know, you think of the Kansas Speedway. That track actually has the longest straightaways of any mile-and-a-half in NASCAR/iRacing. I would argue that this one actually has the shortest straightaways. As we start to see those with the fresh tires now eating into the cars that pitted at lap 40 or around lap 40. I don't get to pull this one up much on the screen. Let's check out the top 10 and their pit strategies. So you can see where Mojica and Gillenwater are now on the track and where they pitted at. And you see where the guys are that pitted in the first stop around lap 40. Scott, I don't know if you're still there, but let me ask you this question. If you're somebody that pitted at lap 40, do you consider stretching your run a little bit more? Maybe go to lap, say, 90 with 30 laps to go? Yeah, you might lose a little bit to the guys that you're pitting with here, but knowing that the other part of the field's not going to pit at all, do you risk maybe going off strategy from those you're racing against now in this pit cycle to try to get fresher tires? Just a thought in my head. As battle for third starting to shape up here. Is Chad Coleman under attack from Tyler Dalton. See Brian Wortman back there to 74 car. I mean, obviously the risk there would be what's too far. You don't want to risk too much and lose too much time that you can't gain back. But I mean, right now Marinek's running 3591s. You look down at, here's Eric Arnold on pit road right now, as a matter of fact. Joe Hudson coming to pit road. So these guys are really going to pit early. So here you go. And this at lap 77. So these guys only went 37 on a set of tires. Yeah, that's true too. And I think another point that I think about here too is with Pedro and those guys pitting, when they did, I feel like they capped themselves a little bit, if you will, because they're limiting how hard they can really push their car. Because you're going to get to a point here with about 30 laps. Once these guys all come to pit road, as Mojica gets around Tyler Dalton here, they've caught up to Chad Coleman in them, which is about 8 seconds off the lead. You're going to get to a point where, I mean, maybe you don't, maybe you do, but you realize, oh crap, I'm not going to make it to the lead or back to the front for the end of this race. I need to get go faster, but you can't because of your gas. All right, Stefan Marinek on pit road. Here we go. So that's going to hand the lead to Mojica as Donaldson and Coleman and Dalton all come to pit road at lap 80. So split it right in threes. as Steve Ritter, oh, he lift the front tires off the ground. Anybody see that? I want to know what motor's in that 16. More tires and fuel, and there goes Marinik. Now watch this for a second. I gotta go back and show this real quick. Oh, Steve Ritter got himself some horsies in the 16 now. Watch this as he leaves pit road here. That's that Mustang power, I guess, huh? Watch the real wheels here. Yay! Easy now. All right, so let's put the track map up here and let's show where everybody is on track here, because this is going to explain it all right here. So, out of the cars that have come to pit road for the two-stopper, you have Stefan Marinik, Kevin DeBrown, Wesley Donaldson, the only three that are on the lead lap. They are pretty much all but a complete lap down now. You look on the map, you see the 1 over here in the left off turn 4. There's the 58 in the middle of 3 and 4. So now they've got to find a way to not burn up their tires, but to make gain on Pedro, because here's the trick now, is with these tires on this car, if they go driving too hard, and the way Pedro can play possum here and almost slow his car down to save tires, he could still beat them. As Marinik passes Foudy for 4th already. Let's check in on Seth, by the way, here. Seth running in the 5th position. See how much he's fighting this wheel. Pretty smooth. He caught the apron a little bit there. It's going to kick him up the track. He's doing a pretty solid job. I mean, he's running 5th right now. He's got the older tires. He's got Wesley Donaldson coming up behind him. Yeah, I think this race is falling into the hands of the two-stoppers. I think I agree with you there, Scott. I'm just hesitant to say it. Oh, I'm 100% confident in it because of how hard these guys are probably driving this car to get to Pedro. And if they're driving it too hard, then they might wear their stuff out getting to them. Tyler Dalton having a great run. 8th position. This is exactly what he needed, as he had a rough race last week in Indianapolis. If he can get up here and get a top 5 finish with the two-stop strategy he's on, then he'll likely make some moves and gain some spots in the Championship 8 battle. As Marinick inside of Wetzel for third. So the lead at 20 seconds right now, which is about half a track, almost a little more than a little less than that. Well, no, a little more. It's that Florida math of mine. Let's do some math, if you will, here. So with Marinick being now 20 seconds back, here, I'll put it up there for you. Pedro ran an 83 last time by. Marinick is 74. Right now, it's 1.1 faster that time by. So at that point, he would catch him with somewhere around 10 or 11 to go. But like I said, already you see the gap, how it's only 1.1 seconds time-wise. That's what I'm talking about. If Marinick's time gets closer and closer to Pedro, it becomes longer and longer to get to him. That time by 1.2. So yeah, it would be about 10 to go, he'd get to him. That's the thing. I mean, that's why I never question what Pedro does, because he's got so much experience on this that he knows what he needs to do, where somebody like me, even though I've been on here for 11 years now, I don't have the thought process or I don't race enough, I guess so to say, anymore, to train myself to know how to back up my times to save the tires for somebody coming back behind me with fresher tires. I just don't know how to do it, let alone know how to save tires in the first place. I've never been good at that, unless I'm at like Bristol or something like that. All right, so Donaldson's about 3.3 seconds back of Marinick, and about 19 seconds back. And I'll say this, if Wesley does this enough, Wesley's lap times are about the same as Marinick right now. Wesley, I think, is within striking distance. Chad Coleman is 21 seconds back with 27 to go. And he is about a second and a tenth faster or so. I mean, there's a chance here that the top 5, maybe top 6 cars will go down to Bobby Wetzel here. Well, no, because Wetzel's on the older strategy, so let's eliminate him. So, yeah, I would say you could maybe throw Dalton in there. I think from Marinick down to Dalton, I think those 4 cars could get to Pedro if they save enough tires. With the time left in this race, 26 laps, with the lap times that are being ran. And please note, again, I am doing all this math by myself because it's literally me only, for those who don't know. As Dalton looks inside of Wetzel right now. That will give him the 6th position. All right, so now look at the lap times. As Mojica 35.90, Marinick 35.05. So that's less than a second now. 35.03 for Donaldson. So now we're at the point where we're less than a second faster. That's what this time's getting closer together. But to counter that, the lead is at 13 seconds right now. Everybody's done a great job here. That's why a lot of people say this league is the best one to race in when it comes to iRacing fixed setups. That's why I'm actually humbled to be a part of it, because I've got some of the best racing leagues to broadcast each week. It's not going to work. Trying to see if there's a way I could show. Unfortunately, I got to wait for Marinick to get to second before I can put the timing and scoring up there. Yeah, now it's 7/10. You're seeing that, right? Now it's down to 6/10. So Pedro's backing off. He's saving tires probably here. I mean, and I think Bob's doing the same thing because they're both 35/90s. Yeah, 30, a 30, a 30, and a 20. So everybody here is within a second of each other now. And it's 10 seconds now of a separation. The thing about it is, it's easy to forget this. The more time that Marinick and those guys kick down on the timing and scoring, the less they have to gain to get to Pedro per lap. No matter how much time it is. See, there it's 0.6 of a second, but the lead's at 10 seconds. He could still gain a half a second a lap to get to Pedro. Oh, if they have to save fuel, then they've made their bed. This is fun. I like this. Appreciate everybody for watching, by the way. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. If you're not, go tell your friends they're missing out on a fun fuel mileage race at Homestead. Or, I guess more of a pit strategy race at Homestead. If F1 ran ovals, if you will. Alright, still 0.6 of a second. Let's put the track map back up so we can... Now, obviously, this is going by the numbers of the cars. So you see Pedro up there at the top, the red 58. He is the leader. Bob Gillenwater right there off turn 2 by himself is second. And then there's the one coming off turn 2 now. It's a full straightaway now from first to third. Let's jump down here real quick. Battle for the 9th position. Two-wheeled Ritter, if you will, inside of Foudy into 36. And move Steve up to 10th. So it's down to 8.1. And if Stefan stays right at this pace right now, then he would again get to Pedro probably in the next 5 to 10 laps. But you know what? Hey, credit to Pedro for this strategy, because obviously all he has to do now is save fuel and get to the finish, but he's almost guaranteeing himself a top 5. Worst case scenario, though he probably wants to win because he's literally led the most laps in this race. He's not going to lose many points when it comes to that championship. However, if Marinick can get around him and Mojica loses a couple spots to Donaldson, to Coleman, and potentially Tyler Dalton, this could easily become a 5-point battle going to Daytona next week. Oh, the ultimate wild card before we go to Vegas. That time by was only 0.3 of a second. But then Mojica lost 0.2 there. He ran a 12, ran a 90 last time, and Marinik a 49. There's 0.7 right there. The black car up ahead there is Bob Gillenwater. Scott, I think this is going to be a lot closer than we think it is. Kevin DeBrown's a lap down, going by Gillenwater there as he tries to catch the 58 to unlap himself. We're getting to a point now to where the worst Mojica might finish as second, which would pretty much even out the battle tonight between Marinik and Mojica. Donaldson still 10 seconds back, and his lap times are still about a half second faster, but he would have to gain a half second a lap every lap now the rest of the way just to get to Pedro. And you got to remember, Marinik's got to get by Gillenwater here, who's having all types of a fit with Kevin DeBrown. I don't want to point this out, but Kevin DeBrown is a teammate, so to say, to Pedro. So if Kevin might give Marinik a hard time, which wouldn't surprise me. Down to 5.1 seconds. As last time by, it was 0.4 of a second separation between the two. Let's click the right one, Scala. There we go. Here goes Stefan inside of Kevin here. He's going to go, but he's going to go right by him. Kevin does a great job letting him go. Nah, not necessarily yet. Well, that time by, Marinik was 0.4 faster. And the lead is 4.5 seconds. It's close. This right here is going to determine if he's good or not. That time by, another 0.4 knocked off. There's Pedro right there going into turn one. Marinik cut another 0.4 off. All right, so Marinik is clear now. get you something. Here we go. So the lead's at 3.5 seconds with 6 to go. He's going to have to gain more than a half-second lap now. Boy, did he make this interesting, though. That time by was about 4/10 again, so he's knocking off about 4/10 a lap now. Yeah, Scott, I think I was with you for a while, man. When it comes to, I thought the two-stop would win this thing. But Pedro's done Pedro things here, and now he's 4 laps away from going back to victory lane, back-to-back here in the Grand National Series. Let's see how much Meredith knocked off this time. Another 4/10. You know what? I agree with that 100% because this was probably Marinek's one way to get to Pedro was to do something different. Again, you do something different to try to win this race. You follow the leader, you're going to follow the leader the whole time. Larry McReynolds says that all the time, and it makes perfect sense. That time by was about a half second. He does have the lap car of Doy Woods there between them. So 2 laps to go. The lead's down to 1.8, down to 1.7. Let's see if we can get clear of Doy. And then you're not following the leader because the leader had to hit the wall then. He's going to get this down in less than a second. White flag, final lap. Is there any kind of miracle in store for Meredith? Oh, he went and put himself in the wall. He got it less than a second. And he is doing everything to get to him. Through 3 and 4 as hard as he can make it down to 3. He's going to fall up a little bit short as Mojica wins again in Miami. Oh, man. All right, that had to be too close for comfort for Pedro. So that's win number 13 for Pedro, and gonna gain a little bit more on Meredith. Chad Coleman finishes 5th. Tyler Dalton finishes 6th. Great finish for Dalton. That'll help him out in the points. Now, I don't know. I wish I had more of the telemetry and stuff to be able to call for you guys there to be able to show stuff. I mean, I guess I could show, set up the road racing stuff I have in here and could have maybe done it that way, but hey, that was fun. Does he have enough fuel for burnout? I think we just got our answer. Got a puff of smoke. So there's where, again, the balance right there of Pedro having to save fuel and hold this guy off that's coming behind him. That's crazy right there. All right, let's take a look at the finishing order. 0.2 of a second over Stefan Meredith. Bob Gillenwater finishes third. Wesley Donaldson fourth. Chad Coleman fifth. Tyler Dalton finishes sixth. Eric Arnold seventh. Bobby Wetzel finishes eighth, with Ritter and Foudy getting a top 10. Gerald Livingston finishes 11th. Doy Woods first one lap down in 12th. Kevin Brown 13th. Ron Holyfield, Jeff Ryan, Brian Wortman, Joe Hudson, Doug Sigmund finishing in the 18th position. 19th going Anthony Calantoni and Glenn Campbell finishing in the 20th position. That was a great race. Bob Gillenwater gets himself another top 5 finish here, as unfortunately too late for the Virginia driver, but I'm sure he'll take these as they come as we bring them up here to the Figure I'd let him talk to himself before he realized I pulled him up.
Hey, Chris.
Hi, Bob. I was like, let me just keep him muted just in case.
No, you know better than that.
Oh, come on now. Not that anybody's ever dropped a bomb on this channel, but anyways, so that was wild. Needless to say, it was almost like an F1 race on oval, if you will, as it come down to the 2-stop strategy versus the one. You did a great job being able to do the one-stopper and be fast enough to still get a top 3 finish, though I know you're probably in your head like, man, could I have done this like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, exactly. Well, honestly, it kind of surprised me a little bit. I mean, that everybody went for that 2-stop strategy. I wasn't expecting that, and I thought, well, I'm just going to do what Pedro does here, and then I was committed.
Right.
And I knew they would be coming at the end, and I don't know if I could have held Stefan off. He kind of leveled out, and I think when he got in my dirty air, he was struggling a little bit, and I kind of missed my line. But I made a little bit of contact with Kevin going to the outside of him and got into him. So I think he got a little payback on me there, race until Stefan caught us. But that's all cool. But yeah, good run. Wish we could have done it a few weeks ago. I love this track. It's one of my favorite tracks. So I was in hopes to run well.
Yeah, obviously it was fun to watch, and I didn't catch the guy. I saw the damage on Kevin's car. I didn't know it. Actually, it came from you. But talk about the balance there, because for you and for Pedro, and I'm going to ask Pedro the same question, you guys had to balance saving enough fuel versus knowing there's people behind you coming with fresher tires.
Yeah, I wasn't too worried about fuel. I mean, I ran it about as hard as I felt like I needed to and wanted to run it that first run, and could have gone a couple extra laps. I pitted right on 60, so really it wasn't too bad. Now, Pedro being a little quicker, I think there at the end, we were reeling him in, and I felt like he was probably in a little bit of fuel trouble maybe. But of course I knew he would manage it right. But yeah, it was just, and I took better care of my tires that second run on exit. Didn't get them lit up, didn't get them hot. The car handled a lot better and was a lot more consistent. But yeah, just a good run,
Absolutely. No, it was fun to watch, and obviously getting yourself a P3 and getting a good finish to cap off the year here before you go to the Daytona next week. And I know that's got to at least make you a little bit happy and a little bit proud, but send some shouts whoever you like to.
Yeah, and you're right, because, my confidence, I've had some rough races. My stats haven't been near as good this year as they were last year, but, the competition, I think, has been, even with Daniel not here, the competition has stepped up across the board.
Right.
Everybody's so good, but just, can't say enough how much we appreciate NC811 for sponsoring the series and taking care of us over here at Sim500. And, of course, Captain Esports. Man, we just can't wait to go back and do every week and watch these. It's a lot of fun. And Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation for being on the car. And other than that, I guess we'll see how it shakes out next week at Daytona, right?
Absolutely, man. Well, great job tonight finishing third. Mr. Simley says great job today. And
hey, thanks, Scott.
And we will see you next. We'll see you next Sunday, because you don't race on Mondays, which is probably a good thing for your arms.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. Yeah, I was sawing a little bit tonight.
I hear they're gonna be sawing a lot tomorrow night, so Well, good
Yeah,
job, man.
no doubt.
All right, buddy.
All right, thanks, Chris.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Bob Gillenwater finishing in the 3rd position here tonight as we get our 2nd place finisher. Actually, before I bring him up here, I do want to go look at something real quickly here. Because I looked over at the screen, and I looked up and I saw Meredith in the turn 1 wall. And I'm wanting to know if he tried something here. I wonder if he actually gained time off that. Interesting. All right, let's ask him. Because, I mean, he got closer still making that move. All right, stuff, man. Finishing in the 2nd position. Oh, so close. Oh, so close. Me and Simley, which, by the way, Simley compliments your run tonight. Finishing there in the 2nd position. I'm trying to think where to start with this. Obviously, the 2-stopper for you, think it worked out as best as you could have made it without getting a Pedro. And I know you wanted to get him probably pretty badly here. But I know it's not feeling good finishing 2nd here.
Yeah, we had to try something. I didn't think I'd be able to pass him on just pure speed with the same tires. So I waited until like lap 43, I think, until I was pretty confident he wasn't coming in at that point. So I dropped in, and I felt pretty good. I mean, we were catching him probably a second a lap early in the run, and then I think he was just managing it. By the end of the run, I was only catching him by a few tenths or so. And I think he had me right where he wanted me. So, yeah, it sucks finishing 2nd, but hopefully Daytona next week. That's probably the one place I have a chance to beat him, just straight up. So we'll see what happens there. But congrats to him. He's so fast, and yeah, it's pretty frustrating, but still a good finish.
Was there anything that well, let me change the question here. Let's go to that final lap, turn 1. Was that just something you were trying to do, is go to the top side, or was that something, just what happened there? Was it just an experiment trying to get something out of nothing?
Yeah, I was running the top in practice a little bit, and I was faster up there, so I figured, if I was gonna try it, that's 1 and 2 is the only place where it was really working. I was getting a good run down the straightaway in practice. So I tried it there. I overdrove it a little bit, clipped the wall, but I don't think it really hurt my speed too much. And I did get a good run down the back straightaway, but he had enough room to stay up there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to fall up short, man. But hey, you made it fun for us to watch here at the end. I mean, I was trying to throw up every kind of timing and scoring to show, like, all right, he's this much faster, he's this much faster. And we were trying to figure out the math, like, all right, you can catch him by here. All right, now it's here. Now it's here. It was a lot of fun to cover on our end. And I know you got that Miami paint scheme trying to win here in Homestead-Miami, and you come up a little bit short, unfortunately. But and send some shout outs whoever you like to.
Yeah, just shout out to my teammates Seth and Steve for sticking with it, and shout out to Scott if he's watching. I appreciate his kind words, and thank you, Chris, for doing the broadcasts all year. And thanks to Joey and everybody at Sim500.
Side question: are you down in the Florida area?
I am.
Okay, so you'll get this joke when I tell you drive up to Joe Robbie and tell 2 I need 3 more.
Will do.
Thank you. For those who don't know, Joe Robbie's the original stadium of the Hard Rock Stadium now, back in the 90s. So I grew up in Florida too, so I'm right there with you. Great job finishing 2nd, bud.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll hopefully they can hold off the Patriots here in the second half. I'm about to get off and watch it.
Attaboy. Yeah, I'm talking fantasy wise. I need like 2 or 3 more from Tua to be safe. So good job, man.
Thanks.
All right, buddy. Stefan Marinick finishing in the 2nd position in the race this evening. Good job on his part. And let's talk to the winner. Here goes victory lane again, 13 times now tonight, or this year, I should say. If he did 13 times tonight, that'd be impressive. But 13 times a victor this season here in the Grand National Series. Now, Pedro, you definitely helped. You and Marinik put on a show there in the last half of the race with the different strategies and stuff. And I know one thing that he and I talked a little bit about just now, and I think it's something you and I could probably talk about here. How much was that you saving tire, backing up your times to compare to Stefan to saving fuel to get to the finish?
Yeah, I'd say I was more saving tires. I mean, it was tough, man, because, like, I pitted. I only did the one-stop strategy.
Right.
So when I got back out, it was tough because, like, I kind of have to manage my pace so I don't kill the tires. I kind of figured I'd be fine on fuel, even though I was, like, literally 0.1 gallons at the line. So I was a little risk there, but yeah, I was more worried about my tires. But also, I was like, well, I need to kind of gain on these guys and get back where I was at before, or get back to about, I don't know, within 10 seconds or 6 seconds or whatever. I think I got close to there. I kind of knew, okay, once I got to that point, it was about back to like where I felt comfortable, and I thought I was going to be okay, which I guess in the end, yeah, it worked out. But yeah, I mean, I was trying to manage tires a little bit. There was one part of the run where they're like probably middle of the run, probably about after they pitted, I picked it up a little bit just to try to minimize that gain on the initial laps
Right.
with the fresh tires. And then yeah, there like it just got really tight. I guess because I did that, but yeah, for the most part, I was just trying to manage the tires the best I could, but then also manage the pace to stay in front of them.
A little too tight probably for comfort, I'd say.
Yeah, it was a little bit. It just the last 2.5 laps, it got really tight out of nowhere. So that kind of surprised me because it didn't really do that the first run. But I mean, I kind of figured as long as I didn't botch a corner like really really bad, he wasn't going to get to me.
Right. So I'm thinking this through here as you do this strategy, you're able to go to victory lane, but we're here to race in a win. That's the obvious point here. Now, I follow that up with this. Is there ever a thought that comes to your mind that's like, all right, if Marinik gets me, at least the worst I'm going to do is probably finish somewhere between second and fifth?
Nah, I wasn't even thinking that. I
Okay.
wasn't going to let him get me. That was yeah.
Difference in mindset right there, guys.
Yeah,
Somebody who's won a lot, somebody who isn't. So
my mindset was to not let him get me. So, because unfortunately next weekend we have a wild card in there.
Yeah.
So these first 2 races were really key to get as many points as possible going into that one.
And the reason why I asked that is because, obviously, I at the time they were about a second and a half faster, and obviously the $1 million question is do the tires at like some of these tracks still plateau and just kind of hang out at a certain number? And it's like, okay, where does it come a point where these other drivers stop gaining on you so much? If they do, when does that cliff happen, so to say? And we sort of saw it towards the end, but they were still gaining. And that's the only reason why I come with that question there. But either way, man, a win's a win, like they say. I mean, in the newspaper, a win's a win. It doesn't matter how you did it. So obviously to get that and extend your points lead again a little bit, going to Daytona next week and have 13 wins at this point, it's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what we sought out for. I will say, like, I didn't think the 2-stop strategy was going to be as good as it was. I figured 1-stop's usually the best bet, but I mean they did a great job. I mean Stefan did a good job when he came out, just running really good laps and not really getting held up, I guess. So shout out to him. He did a good job. It's probably the best race he's ran all year, I think, tonight. So he's definitely showed up for the playoffs. But yeah, no, I mean, I like this car. It's a challenge to drive for the most part at all these tracks, and that kind of fits into my wheelhouse. So I just like it. So yeah, just have 13 wins on the season. It's just a testament to like just how much I like this car. I think more than anything, but also too the clean racing in the league. It doesn't come down to really a lot of wild card stuff. It comes down to straight up racing. So it makes it a lot of fun. But yeah, no, I'm pretty happy. And we also achieved our goal of winning the first 2 races of this round going into Daytona,
Yeah.
and being over 10 points going into that race. So it's not stress free, but it does help a little bit with the strategy you know, not having to be super aggressive and crazy all over the place. Biggest thing is just survive and don't get wrecked. And kind of, you know, honestly, if we have a night like we did last Monday where we snuck through all the wrecks, got a 6th place finish, like, I'll take that, you know, going into the last race, which I think is Vegas.
That is correct, yeah. So, great job, though. Congratulations on the win, and send some shout out to whoever you like to.
Chris, I appreciate you and Captain Esports for putting on the broadcast, NC811 for sponsoring the Sunday series and everything they do for the league. Glenn Campbell and Transfers for sponsoring me this year. Glad to represent them well, especially in this league, so that's cool. So shout out to them. All the guys on Team Name, appreciate them. All the admins at Sim500, appreciate everything they do. And then appreciate the family for letting me come and hang out for a couple hours tonight.
Absolutely, man. Well, great job tonight. Congratulations. And Simile says you have to let one of them win every once in a while.
Next week's a good chance of that.
Great job, man.
I appreciate it.
Hey, you too, buddy. Pedro Mojica, the winner here tonight, 13th time this season. He's gone to victory lane in the Grand National Series, and I like his confidence. He's definitely a different mindsetter than I am, because, I mean, that's a separation right there of a guy who's won hundreds of races versus a guy that's won, I don't know, 20, maybe. I think 14 on officials. But he literally had the confidence to say, they were not getting around me. Where me, I'm like, 2nd to 5th's not bad. So, anyways, man, what a great race it was. Congratulations to Pedro, and yeah, we're looking forward to tomorrow night. We'll go to Darlington and go rock and roll for, I know what you meant, in the Cup Series presented by 811, North Carolina 811. So it's going to be a fun one tomorrow night, 8:15 Eastern time. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. And of course, thanks to 811 for sponsoring both series. Thanks to the viewers for watching tonight. Thanks to Scott Simley for giving me some feedback of what to expect out here at Homestead tonight, kind of being a color commentator texting wise. But it was definitely a lot of fun to have him there kind of helping and making sure I didn't look like so much of an idiot like I sometimes do. So we go from there. All right, enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, and always remember, this isn't just a game, it's iRacing. See ya!
Searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless, a sea of the aimless. I don't wanna be one of the nameless. I'ma wake up with the mindset that one day I'm gonna make it, and I don't think I'll be fine if I don't break my limitations. Don't try to stop me, I exist to write my own story. I'll make a decision if I want some peace or if I want the glory. Yeah, don't want a life that is complacent or possibly boring. I just want a life that is worth every day exploring.
My whole life I just wanted someone who would notice me. My whole life I just wanted to be somebody to be. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, yeah.